Well, hey, good afternoon, everybody. It's time for Train Tuesday, and I figured, we just got back from the train show at Amherst. So why take all this down? Might as well leave it up for all you guys out there to take a look at. So here's the new studio. It'll be a little bit easier than seeing what I've had in the past, and we're going to be able to show you a lot more cool stuff. So we're gonna bring some time in to let everybody come on board while we're stopped here at the station. So let's see who we got out there today. Looks like I got Bradley, Jonathan. I got Gordon. We've got Fred again. Hey, Fred. Zach. How's it going, Zach? Mr. Steve Anderson. How you doing? And let's see, we got some more coming in. We got Jerry. The Brick Wall, number 8. All right. Either a Pink Floyd fan or just likes bricks. Johnny. Nice to see you on here. SB Scotty, hey, Bradley, Steve, Jim, and Rick. Man, we got some great folks coming on board. Love it that you guys are coming in. Hope you guys are hearing me okay, because we just got a new wireless mic to make things a little bit easier for everybody involved. We got Derek here. We got Rodney. We got Mark, Robert, Terry, John, Bill. We got the whole band. We got everybody. So, man, thanks for coming on board today. We've got some great stuff to talk about. I've got some special guests that we're going to get to talk to. And, while they're talking, if you have a question for them, try to hold on to it. So when we get back to the end of the show, when we do our Q&A time, feel free to give them a question. They'd love to talk to you about their hobby and their passion. So first thing I wanted to talk about was how many got to go to the one of many virtual train shows that were happening this past week. We had Ken Jr. at Train World do a really cool virtual event. It was a 3-day event. We were there on Wednesday and had a good time. It's really good to get together with Ken. Of course, James Wright, he was a co-host of that. It was a good time. We got to see all the neat stuff that's going on. And then later that week, I went back to my neck of the woods, virtually anyways. I went to the Amherst train show, which is normally in Springfield, Mass every year. Of course, we couldn't do that this year, but it was still a great time, and it was a great show. It was great to have that on in my workshop, watching all the new stuff that was coming out, watching the cool tips and techniques and all of that. And of course, I was on there Sunday about 2:45, and we talked about some of the cool stuff, and some of that stuff we'll bring up again. On that note of Amherst, we had a pretty interesting story, and one of the best storytellers out there is Tony Cook. I'm going to bring Tony on board because he's got something really cool that has to go with what happened on Sunday. Hey, Tony, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Well, it looks like you're more ready for the Super Bowl than I am.
Well, and I was trying to decide today who I thought you might be rooting for. And it's like, well, you got that New England heritage, so I can see you siding with that other team's quarterback, maybe out of, some nostalgia. But, you are over in Illinois, so you're close to Missouri.
Right.
So yep. I would hope that you're on the road to repeat with us here in Kansas City, but
I'm probably kind of leaning towards where I'm at right now, so if you look at my fine physical physique, you will see that I am a fan of the tailgate. So it doesn't matter as long as there's food.
Kansas City, that is the biggest. Tailgating starts at dawn on Sundays for football games.
Oh man!
So, yeah. Oh yeah, barbecue.
So, you're making me hungry.
our local TV stations will say like Sunday's weather forecast for tailgating. It's going to start out with this during the day. And then when the game actually kickoff time, it'll be about this with some sunshine. So yeah, we even get like a tailgating forecast. That's how serious the pregame is.
That's hardcore.
City out at Arrowhead.
That is hardcore.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So Tony, I know you went to the Amherst show. We were just talking about the Amherst show, and we were talking about John, who did him and his crew both did an extremely incredible job running that show, didn't they?
virtual rail fan. I thought that was spectacular. And John Sacerdoti, I had done a podcast with him on Lionel Strang's A Modeler's Life. Oh, I think back in October, November, when this was all still in the, well, here's what we're going to have to do this year. We're going to try it, see how it goes. And you could tell from, the way John was talking, it's that we want to do this. We don't want to leave anybody out. We've got a lot of vendors that this is such a big time for them. So we want to come through and do something. And, there's been a lot of these shows, like you've been on the one that you mentioned with Ken Bianco. I've done those. I love doing the Train World stuff out of New York. So there's a lot of that going on, but this was a first for the Amherst Railway Society. And I thought John just knocked it out of the park. He and the virtual rail fan guys, I watched the show Saturday, Sunday, both. While I was here working in my office, I had it up on my side monitor and watched the whole thing, watched all you guys doing your presentations. And yeah, I thought it was great. And in a lot of ways, it was like being at the show. I connected with a couple people that were doing presentations and would email them and say, hey, I'm interested in that, or this is something I've been looking for. So it was like being at the show and making some of those contacts. And so, yeah, it's kind of neat. And I think I did end up buying a brass narrow gauge steam locomotive from, I think it's Matthew Dowd that does that resourcerails.com that he sells like estates. Yeah, it ended up costing me some money this weekend too, but what the heck?
Hey, it's not a train show without spending some money, right?
Yeah. So again, that's that whole thing is, well, yeah, it's virtual, but I'm not going to get to take anything home. And it's like, well, I didn't haul it out to my Lincoln and drive home, but yeah, I did end up buying something. So yeah. There you go.
Yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. It really was, and it was cool because, like you said, it's not quite the same as being there, but it was definitely cool because we could work on our layouts, we could work on our projects, our scratch building projects, our weathering projects, whatever it may be, and have that iPad or that tablet or TV or whatever in the workshop playing, and it was great. It was as close as it gets. The only thing was, as I told John that day, I didn't have my Dunkin' decaf. I just had to suck it up.
And all day, I could swear I smelled hot dogs. Like, where's the hot dog stand? I know there's a hot dog stand around here someplace that I really would like, a show dog, lots of mustard, and a Coke. And yeah, I never could find concession. That was the only thing. Yeah.
Well, the good news is we'll probably be seeing all those great guys next year in person. Maybe then we can all share a round of Dunkin'. You had something really cool, too, that you had remembered that John and I started our interview with a really kind of a cool tidbit of history, and I know my fans out here are going to love to see it.
Yeah, John, I think when I think it was at the beginning of you guys' presentation, he said, and everybody has that memory of the first thing they bought or the first thing they got from, a company. And Athearn is such a classic in the hobby that, in fact, I was talking to somebody just last week that said to me, I would not be in the hobby if it wasn't for Athearn. And it's like, wow, I never thought of that. But, yeah, it's like as much as I love all the other stuff too, yeah, as a kid, Athearn Blue Box is what my dad lived on. Custom painting, building kits, that's what I did. So, yeah, it's like, I don't know that I would not, the hobby would not be the same without. So that is cool. But what John had said, and I think I have it here. Do I click that or do you? There you go.
There we go.
John said the first thing that he bought in Athearn was this SD9. And it got me, I started thinking, I know it's 1970s. I was thinking it was later 70s. I think I had confused it with the Trainmaster, which comes out in 79. But this is from Railroad Model Craftsman. This would have been a full page ad right inside the front cover. And this is March 75 for the introduction of the Blue Box SD9. And I remember it when it came out. I think I was 9 years old at the time. I would have been about to turn 9. And I remember thinking how cool that was. I love those Flexicoil trucks. They were die-cast metal truck side frames on that one at the time, but it was a nice piece. And I guess one of the last, now that I think about it, it's also one of the last wide bodies, because I think that Baldwin S12 comes out about the same time, and then I think the next diesel is the Trainmaster in 79, which just by what the prototype is, it's not a wide body, because the real one, the Fairbanks Morse, was a wide unit, and then the tunnel motors and stuff come out in the early 80s. So I think that might be the last slightly wider than prototype Blue Box shell, and a tooling. Nice piece.
And he was saying how that still works on his layout at home. It's just amazing. Those they're kind of like remember the old Ford flathead engines. You couldn't kill those things. They just kept running and running and running.
Yeah.
And that's an interesting piece of our history. But nowadays you think about it, and like you're saying, that was one of the last of the wide bodies. I think a lot of the younger guys out there, or some of us, have forgotten how remember the GP7, the label literally said GP7/9 because it wasn't really either one. It was kind of a hybrid, and it had the wider hood. And for back in the day, that was still a great model. It wasn't a toy. It was still a hobby-based product. But
no, it all was.
Yeah. But now we've got stuff that spoils us, and that's one of the reasons why I brought you on today is because one of our coolest Genesis releases for this month is the SD70 Ace. And man, there's a locomotive that, in fact, you know what? I'm going to bring it up so we can start talking about it and let these guys see all the goodness here. So let me see. I'm going to move this.
And then this is a 2.0 release this time. And I think I did see there's a number of new tooling things like the BNSF. We'll have to look at that as we get road names. But anybody thinking, they're doing SD70 Aces again. It's like, but look again, because like the BNSF, I think, are different steps or something to the pilots. And so as always.
You're absolutely correct. Yeah. Wait for my computer to catch up here. But yeah, you're absolutely correct. I mean, what we've done is we've not only done some really cool lines, some really cool roads and paint schemes and heritage stuff like we're seeing here. But you're right, they're Genesis 2.0. They're going to have the dual sugar cube speakers. They're going to have the see-through steps. All that Genesis 2.0 goodness is going to be packed in here. And here's something that's really cool. The PCB board, it's all PCB. There's no wires anymore. Everything is done by contacts, kind of like how they do things in the automotive industry. And man, how many times have you and I been working on something? Maybe we want to add some type of some lighting effect or something on our DCC boards, and trying to get all that wire in there without pinching anything or anything like that. And plus, working with the manufacturer's wiring, we don't have that problem anymore. These are going to be so much easier if you want to add something that doesn't come with it. Although with Genesis 2.0, they're pretty complete.
I was just saying, I don't know what you'd add to it, but yeah, and I love that the shell now, the way you have those set up, you can take the shell completely off. There's no longer the cabling for the wires up into the lights, and I always would have trouble getting those. For me, it wasn't so much what are you installing, but what are you taking pictures of for Model Railroad News. So it's like, well, I want to get the shell off to show readers the drive, and then trying to get it back on, I wouldn't get the headlights back in, or the wires that slide down the side. It's like, why can't I not get the shell on? It's like, the wires they've slipped a little bit. So yeah, that being able to take the shell off completely, just like I say, for something as silly as, well, it's great for me taking pictures. It's fantastic if you're a modeler, though, to be able to get in there and not have that to deal with. Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely is. Now, the first ones that we're showing, these are kind of cool. At first, this is one of those things, these things look the same, but they're different. And that's what we've got going on here. These are, of course, the Union Pacific Heritage units. We've got the really cool reimagined Union Pacific's versions of the Missouri Pacific, the Western Pacific, and the Katy. And at first glance, it's like, okay, cool. You guys did that a few years ago. Yeah, you did the Genesis 2.0, but what gives? Well, it's like I was saying in a previous broadcast, just like the real thing, these things got painted back in 2005, okay? And they don't really go to the garage at night like our Corvettes or Mustangs or any car for that matter. They're out there in the real world getting all grimed up. So if you look real carefully here, and see if I can zoom in so our fans can see this, you'll see these were repainted in 2017. So they were given a refresh.
So
there's subtle.
I didn't realize that. I hadn't caught that yet. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So these represent, we talk a little bit about the history of them. How they came out in 2005, which, man, it doesn't seem like it was that long ago. It seemed like it was yesterday. But they've been.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what was that, Tony?
I say I had somebody either on the Norfolk Southern or these UP saying that to me recently, that boy, some of those are starting to look bad, but they're so old. And my first thought was, what do you mean they're so old? And it's like, well, it's done, 15 plus years ago. It's like, oh wow, yeah, I guess they were. But again, yeah,
Right.
it doesn't hit you at first. Like, oh yeah, I guess they are. Yeah.
Yeah, so we decided to do the same thing as a UP. We've offered these versions here, which have subtle little differences. You'll see them when you actually take ownership of them. But these are great models, and we actually had a lot of folks asking for these particular heritage units. So we're really excited about having these part of the UP line. And then we didn't stop there. We had fun with this release. I'll be honest with you, Tony. It was a lot of fun. Now I'm going to scroll down, and my computer seems to be slow. Somebody said Taco Tuesday. I think my computer may have had some tacos before this started. So yeah, like you were saying earlier, not only are we offering them in the BNSF, but these are the BNSF with the 6-step version. So a lot of the Aces had the 5 steps. The BNSF, they ordered them with 6 steps. And that's what we're going to do here. Get this guy to scroll down a little bit so you can see that BNSF goodness. And we're offering that in 3 different road numbers. And I'm sure, Tony, where you're at, these are pretty common.
We see them all the time. Yeah, my assistant editor, Shane Mason's here in Kansas City, and I'm here. And when we go rail fanning like Santa Fe Junction, which you show a lot on virtual rail fan, down at Union Station on the bridge watching trains, yeah, it's all BNSF and UP for the most part. So we see these all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, these look sharp. I mean, the BNSF paint scheme, as you see here, the 2005 plus, or the swoosh scheme, as a lot of rail fans have called it. At first I wasn't too big of a fan. I really like the Heritage 1s and the Heritage 2s, kind of that throwback to the Great Northern days. Yeah. But, with time, I mean, especially on the modern units, this is a really sharp looking paint scheme, and it really shows up really well. So this one should be pretty popular. And this is based on productions that were built 2015 onto now. So if you've got a modern layout and you need some modern power and BNSF is your road, you're probably going to want to look into getting one of these.
So all of these, as you say, this has got the 6-step, and I see that antenna array is one of those things that kind of keeps modernizing and changing on locomotives. I see you're doing that for the cab roof. We'll have new details there. So this is a first time for both those features, I think, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Yeah, it's one of those things where, I think some of us older modelers got a little spoiled. In the old days, you could buy a Jeep 7, a Jeep 9, maybe a Jeep 18, and do a few little things. Northern Pacific would have the bell on the nose and, that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And it would pretty much stay the same. Technology pretty much stayed the same. But if you think about it, you bring up an excellent point. Within a few years, technology just keeps advancing. And so those antenna farms on the roof, we have to keep modifying them. So going back to those UP heritage units in 2005, they had a completely different antenna array than what they have now.
Cool. Yeah, I hadn't thought of that, but I guess that'll be updated as well. Yeah.
Exactly.
I can't remember how many of those I bought. As those came out, I know I got like KD Mopac. I think I bought about half of them when they came out the first time. So I'm eager to see them come back, and especially now that I know they're different.
Now, this one I think you're going to be excited about, because I know a lot of people are excited about it. First of all, Montana Rail Link, which is a cool railroad anyways.
Oh, yeah.
Great paint scheme, just a great all-around railroad. But we all know what happened in, what was it, about November of 2020, wasn't it, Tony?
Yes, they brought out, this is what, I think they've got 2 different units now, but this is the first one of their special paints that they just brought out recently.
Yeah, this is the Essential Workers unit, which is a great, kudos to MRL for thinking of all the people that have, let's admit, 2020 and even going into 2021 has been rough. And with everything that our EMT and our nurses and doctors and anybody that has anything to do with the healthcare industry, this was a great way to say thank you, because, really we couldn't do it without those essential workers. And, not only that, but, you've got all those great people in the medical field, but you've also got other people that during the worst of the pandemic, they still had to go to work. They had to make sure, stuff kept moving. So railroad employees, truckers, truckers were super valuable during this. There's, law enforcement, things of that nature. So this is really the railroad's way of saying thank you to everybody that, was so essential that they gave up, selflessly, they gave up their own health to make sure the rest of us were okay. And that's pretty cool. And, the other thing, Tony, is that, Horizon, our company, Horizon and Athearn, we're proud to say that we're doing something a little bit different with the sale of this unit. Now, this unit here, 4404, is painted in that essential workers paint scheme. But you'll see down here, this Hobbies for Good.
Mm-hmm.
And Hobbies for Good is something that Horizon's been doing for a little bit. Basically, what we're going to do is we're going to use the sales from this locomotive. So, guys, when you pre-order this locomotive, proceeds of the sales of this locomotive are going to go back to helping the very people that helped us in 2020 and into 2021, which is, I don't model the Montana Rail Link, but I like it enough to buy that, so my proceeds help out. How about you, Tony?
That is neat. Yeah, I think when we were looking at these, I saw that and thought, yeah, I've got to get one of these on order myself. Of course, being a collector, any of the special liveries and that always catch my attention. And you talked about Montana Rail Link. You don't model it. Have you ever been up there? That's on my bucket list. And I know my sister, Mason, that this is one of his favorite roads. And what it was carved out of a piece of, I think, the Northern Pacific, that they like BN took that and made it sold it off to this route. But boy, it's one that I'd love to get up there and rail fan that sometime. I never have. On White River, we did a book some years back. It's been out of print for a long time, but there's a great color book on Montana Rail Link if you can track down a copy. And it's a neat road. I mean, it's something different.
It is.
Yeah. And this paint scheme I like. They kept. It's got the flavor of the railroad, the blue, obviously it's red, white, and blue, but you can see it's a good matching Montana Rail Link. It's nice when you can do a special livery and it still comes through also with kind of the corporate image of the railroad too. And I think this one's spectacular for that it says both MRL as well as a commemorative locomotive.
Yeah, just tastefully done all the way around. And we are getting some comments if we're going to do the military version. Thank you to our veterans. And I don't have a solid answer on that yet, but I do know that the guys in R&D are working on something. So when we have something firm, I will let all of our fans out there know. But definitely, and I'm seeing some comments out there, and thank you for those comments. I do try to watch those comments. And Chris Matthews, he's got a good point. He said, we should probably do something for the truck drivers too, and that's a great thing. I mean, we do the trucks and we do the trailers, and let's admit it. I mean, the local trucker kind of took the place of the local switcher that we had years ago. And I wouldn't want to be a trucker nowadays. These guys are hardworking and they get food on our table and everything else. So just like the railroads, we want to thank for our truckers out there too that helped us out during the pandemic. Because man, without them, I wouldn't have this nice, fine physique.
I know. It's odd for me because I've worked at home since I retired from Union Station in 2012, and I've done the magazine. So this is how I always, I worked from home for almost a decade now, doing the magazines and railroad work stuff for White River. So to me, it's always been Amazon delivering this or, ordering stuff like that. So that part wasn't such a change, but my appreciation of it, I mean, I can't tell you, I'm hollering out the window, hey, thanks, have a good day, stay safe, and all that stuff. So you think about it a lot more,
And, of course, we're doing them in that really cool Montana Rail Link blue and black, which is, just cool. I know the Montana Rail Link guys, they are great, loyal fans of the road, and as they should be. It's a fun road. I'm with you, Tony. I haven't had a chance to rail fan it yet, but it's on the bucket list. And if you're like me, too, if you like Burlington Northern equipment, there used to be a bastion of former Burlington Northern equipment on that road. And so, someday we'll have to head out there and do some rail fanning.
Definitely.
Now, speaking of rail fanning, I've got one more that I don't think we've done this road before, at least with the SD70As, and Tacoma Rail.
Yeah.
This is pretty cool. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, Tony. I'm not well versed on Tacoma, but thanks to you, you put me in touch with Aaron Adams, who's kind of the rail fan of Tacoma Rail. And, let me see if I can. Yeah, go ahead, Tony.
I was going to say this one kind of got past me. When I first saw it, I thought, oh, GM&O, because it looks like one of their red and whites, and it's like Tacoma Rail. And then I didn't really think again until Aaron Adams is a regular contributor at Model Railroad News, and he lives out in the Pacific Northwest. And he said, oh, cool, I can't believe you're doing that. I've got pictures and stuff. And so suddenly I circled back around like, yeah, those caught my eye, but because it didn't really register, I don't know it. I went beyond it. But yeah, we've got, I think you have Aaron here with us today as a special guest.
Yeah, let me see if Aaron's available. And well, hey, Aaron, how are you today?
Hey, doing well. Thanks for having me on, Jim and Tony.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for coming on board. And I was telling the audience, I'm pretty good with a lot of the Midwest roads and, of course, the Northeast roads and Canadian roads, but I don't really know much about Tacoma Rail. And Tony said that you've done some rail fanning out there and you're well versed in the road. And I know you brought some pictures for us to look at as well. Tell us a little bit about Tacoma Rail and when you started rail fanning it.
Yeah, definitely. I've grown up here just kind of south of Seattle, between Tacoma and Seattle my entire life. So it's something I've seen over the years, especially growing up loving trains since I was probably about 2. Back in 2016, actually, I participated in NRHS's Rail Camp program, which is a fantastic program for kind of high school age students. If you're a rail fan out there who's kind of in that age range, unfortunately, they're not doing it this year, and they had to cancel last year's as well because of the pandemic. But if that resumes, definitely apply and try to go. But one of the things that's part of their Tacoma based program is you spend an entire day at Tacoma Rail and just get to experience some of their operations and kind of just shadow their employees and just get to work with equipment and learn how freight railroads work. But yeah, Tacoma Rail is a really unique operation, I think. One of the things that makes it so unique is they're not technically a private railroad necessarily. They're part of Tacoma Public Utilities. So they're operated right there along with the water and power for the city of Tacoma.
Okay, very cool. Now, I know you had you and a friend of yours have sent us some pictures. I'll tell you what I'll do is I'm going to move this out of the way real quick, and I'm going to bring those pictures up for you. And if you want to just kind of give us let us know what's going on in these pictures, and really, really nice scenery that you've got out there, and really nice pictures you picked up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's see. Now, these are a mixture. I've tried to give the photo credit based on what you gave me, but this is a cool picture. Very well framed, too.
Yeah, I think they got a little mixed up. This one's a really fantastic shot my friend Nick took, actually. He's on YouTube as Western Washington Rail Productions, I think, and shares a lot of his photography, but he's another local guy, actually, I met through the internet years ago, back through when Google Plus was still a thing. But this is a photo he took. This is Tacoma Rail's Mountain Division, where these SD70s are primarily used. It's a former Milwaukee road line. And if you've ever seen pictures from that area, this is where Milwaukee actually used sets of F units, and they had the kind of the converted F7B slugs that were really neat. And this is essentially the successor.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool.
That's a great paint scheme.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really awesome.
It is.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really, really eye-catching scheme. It's kind of reminiscent of just a lot of schemes over the years, sort of a little bit of Frisco and, like Tony said, GM&O, and then the chevrons. It's really, really sharp.
Now, I know we've got some pictures just kind of talking about the line, which is really cool because, again, I was not well-versed at all on this line. Now, this is a great picture from your friend Nick, and, man, there's some beautiful mountain scenery back there.
Yeah, this is a really, really amazing one. When he sent me this, when he sent these over to me, this is one I just realized we definitely had to share. It's beautiful with Mount Rainier there in the background. This is up at Frederickson, which is kind of the end point of the line. The line does go further out toward Morton and Eatonville out there. It's actually the same line that the Mount Rainier Scenic Railroad operates, or did operate up until last year. In this shot, you get the 7001, I believe, and then two of their other slightly older units. These were actually the original power that they used for the Mountain Division when they took over. They took over the Mountain Division when Weyerhaeuser ceased the railroad operations. I believe it was either the late 90s or early 2000s. Yeah. It's a SD, I believe that's an SD40, and then that's a SD45 car body SD40-2.
Oh, okay. Very interesting. Very cool.
Yeah, so this, you say the Weyerhaeuser Railroad operated on this at one time too?
Yeah. After the Milwaukee Road pulled out of the West Coast in the early 80s, Weyerhaeuser took over that section of line, and that was, I believe that was operated under the Chehalis Western name, and they had several GP38s and a C415. And actually, the C415 is still around.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I love that switcher scheme. That's sharp.
Yeah, it is sharp. Yeah.
Yeah, this is kind of another photo of some of the sort of typical power. These are some MP15 ACs, and these were from Mexico, actually, and I think they just bought two more recently. But yeah, this is right in the port of Tacoma, where kind of their main center of operations is at. This is one of the other trains that they're switching.
Very nice.
This
is a cool shot. Tell us a little bit about this.
That's neat, yeah.
Yeah, so it's looking through their power facility there. There's a really nice spot kind of on the shoulder of the road there, so you can look straight through it. And on this day, the entire bay was empty, so you could see straight forward to their headquarters building. And there's some of their other EMD power there. Yeah, on the right, that's one of
that is cool.
Yeah.
It looks like something that now, obviously we chose the two aces because we had requests for it, and at the time, like I said, I didn't know much about Tacoma Rail, but I figured, hey, you know what, we've got some fans out there that want them. Now I can see why. This looks like it'd be the perfect railroad to model.
It is, and they operate about 3 divisions. They have their Port Division, Mountain Division, and they also operate the Lakewood Sub, where they have a local where they run some of their Jeeps. It's just a really unique line with a lot of EMD power.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now this picture looks really interesting. Tell us a little bit about this. This is one that your friend Nick got, right?
Yeah, this is another one that Nick sent over. This is from, I believe, 2014. Tacoma Rail had an open house, which they used to do fairly frequently and stopped a few years back. But this is one of the SD70s, and these were when they were just acquired from EMD. They were originally demonstrator units, and these are technically SD70 ACE P4s, which is kind of an odd variation. Yeah, BNSF borrowed these to test them out, and essentially they're kind of the EMD equivalent of the ES44 and ET44 C4s. On this ET44 and ES44 version, the center axle is kind of an idler axle with no traction motor. On these P4s, it's the 2 axles closest to the fuel tank. And that's pretty much the only real difference that's even remotely noticeable in the prototype.
Wow. And did they keep them that way for Tacoma Rail?
Yeah. As far as I know, these all still just have 4 traction motors instead of 6. I think the BNSF ones were 2. The BNSF ones, I think they bought 20, and they're numbered between about 8,500 and 8,519, I think.
Okay.
That's interesting. Cool. I didn't know there were any EMDs set up that way. Wow, cool.
Yeah. I did not either. I was researching. I didn't realize that BNSF actually even bought any, but I guess they bought 20. I'm not sure if they still have theirs with just the 4 traction motors, but they're pretty interesting.
Very, very interesting. So this one here, this is just like the one that we're offering, 7002. This is one that you grabbed. Looks like a yard shot.
Yeah. This one was taken during Rail Camp back in 2017, I think. And they were nice enough to let us tour the facility a little bit after. And as one might assume, there's a lot of rail fans who are photographers who go. So we got to take some photos kind of around. This is in front of the building we saw a minute ago with the tower on it. And on the left, there's some CN power. One thing that they do is part of their operations, they do contract maintenance for BN and UP on Class 1 power. So those CN units are probably from maybe an oil train or a grain train.
Okay.
Very
cool.
What's their herald? I see the black like capital T, but what's the stack of the little
Yeah.
red? What is that?
Yeah, it's a pretty unique logo. It's essentially the same as the one that they use for water and power. If you look at the little red lines, they're basically a rail with kind of ties underneath of it.
Oh,
Sort of
okay.
just a profile shot of a track.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
it's a pretty interesting logo.
Nice little nose shot of 7002 you got there.
Yeah, this is another one taken through the same maintenance facility. I think they call it the Dean Barn after a past CEO or one of the higher up management guys. And I think that was kind of just his project that he developed was just that maintenance facility. But yeah, it's a neat shot. On the left, there's a ex-UP CA caboose. I can't remember which CA class it is, but actually that converted to an office with a full control stand simulator for training in it, which is pretty neat.
Oh.
Okay.
Wow, that's neat.
That is cool.
Yeah.
Oh, that is neat. So, a little bit about yourself, Adam. How many years have you been active in rail fanning?
Yeah. I've probably been active in rail fanning now for probably, it's 2021, probably about 6 or 7 years. I started taking photos when I was about 12, but I've loved trains for years, and I think it was probably the Thomas the Tank Engine syndrome.
Yeah, I think Tony and I are a little bit too old for that.
Well, for that, yeah, isn't that Jim? I always hear people say, "Yeah, Thomas the Tank got me into that." I'm like, "No, I was in my 30s, I think then." So yeah, I'm now.
Yeah, I think so.
Now, Aaron, I was
apparently you're.
Oh, I'm sorry. You
Go
were
ahead,
saying how long you've been in. I was trying to remember, Aaron. I know you've written for me at Model Railroad News for a number of years now, and I was trying to remember. I know you've done a couple of different stories and things as well as product reviews, but I could not remember now how we originally met. If you emailed me about something, and I think I ended up offering you to review something, and then it just, and I had no idea. This is a funny thing, Jim. I didn't know Aaron started writing for me. He had been doing reviews for a couple of years. I think we were friends on Facebook or something, and then suddenly I see pop up in my feed one day that he's just graduated from high school or starting college. And I never thought about it because all our communication had been email. And it's like,
sure.
Now what? He's just graduated. It's like, oh wow, I had no idea. I remember asking him like, that's you then. And he's like, yeah, I'm starting college next year. And I'm like, wow, I had no idea. It's like, how cool is that? Another one of the young guys because again, I think when you think of guys in model railroading, it's all guys like us, Jim, that have got a little bit of gray here.
Yeah,
so,
a little gray.
But so
that wasn't
no idea at first that other than knowing he was in Washington, he was out in the Pacific Northwest and a rail fan. I just never thought about it. And it was like, oh wow, that's cool. But yeah, it's been 2 or 3 years, I think you've been writing for the magazine. Yeah.
I think so. I'm trying to remember. I think that review, what had happened, I think you'd put out a post or something through the Modeler's Life asking if someone wanted to review. I think it was one of the Norfolk Southern first responders units. I'm trying to remember what year that was. Probably 2017.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and that's great. We're definitely glad that you could join us, Aaron. And usually Tony and I, we kind of hang out together and we talk to our fans out here and we talk about some other stuff. Are you have anything going on, or would you like to stay with us and maybe answer some questions later?
Yeah, I think I'm free for the next hour or so, so I'd be happy to stay.
All right, great. And I see you got a nice Cascade Green Burlington Northern sign behind you, so I know you're a good guy. Well, that's great. Thanks for coming on board and telling us a little bit more about Tacoma Rail. And I mean, it's nice too, Tony, like you were saying, the young guys are out there and, actually a lot of the stuff that we get for all of our lines, the Genesis, Ready to Run, even Roundhouse, we get comments from fans. And a lot of the younger guys are out there trackside with their cameras and they get us some really good pictures. And it's good that we've got these guys out there. I don't know about you, Tony. I'm getting kind of bad in my old age. I got to wait till April or May before I go rail fanning again because I'm such a wuss with the cold. But I bet you, Aaron, that doesn't bother him at all.
Sometimes.
Yeah,
around here you kind of have
you know what? We get some rain. I hear you there.
I got heated seats in my Nautilus, so I can go out this time of year, but I prefer spring and summer.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I have a Jeep Wrangler, which is what I would consider barbaric as far as creature comforts. Maybe good if you're a Klingon, but so we've got some other cool Genesis stuff to talk about. We have got, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again here. You were talking earlier, Tony, about the F89F bi-level auto racks, and I will bring that up here real quick.
And you guys, I don't, it's not a new model. Athern's done it before. I've gotten them from the first run, and this, even though that's what I do with the magazine and keeping up with things, there's so much product coming out. Stuff will get past me. And about a week and a half ago, I'm talking with my dad, and he said, "Hey, did you get any of the new Athearn auto racks? I just got the Wabash GMO." And I'm like, "What new Athearn auto racks?" And so then I'm in that bad situation of having to chase them down. And I did found a GM&O from Redboard Hobbies in Belleville, Illinois, but I'm still looking for a Wabash. I got to call some places. But again, and I'm thinking, how on two roads that I love, especially GM&O, did I not have this pre-ordered someplace? So, I mean, again, we talked about this. You need to reserve it. And I know a lot of guys have got to be like me. They're like, "Yeah, let me think about it a little bit more. Yeah, I'm going to, but I may not today." And then boom, these come out, and suddenly it's like, "Oh, I want to get one of those." And then I'm having to stock all over the place. So now this is the next run you've got announced that'll come out, what, first of next year?
First of next year, yeah. We've got some great roads that we're representing. I mean, the Southern, which is a little bit different from the other offerings because they were one of the first ones to kind of adopt the anti-damage or anti-vandalism shields. But, it's hard to think back nowadays, when we go rail fanning, we see those totally uncovered auto racks and you don't know what's under there. You can kind of guess, but man, back in the late 60s, early 70s, bi-levels like this were generally used for trucks. So, like F-150s or the old C-10s, just seeing those old vehicles on there, such cool pictures. I know Jim Boyd got some great pictures of these back all throughout the Midwest. And I think Emery Goulash did as well. Oh, and man, these are just really cool for that era of modeling.
It's great stuff. I mean, once you start adding all the vehicles in, there's a lot to model them. But man, yeah, seeing these roll by, I would see these as a kid a lot on the Norfolk and Western. Would run the auto parts stuff north of us across through Decatur and Springfield, Illinois, on the way to Hannibal, Missouri, and on to Kansas City, I guess, out of Detroit in that area. And I'd see strings of these cars as a kid. And yeah, seeing the old, Cadillacs and big Fords and things like that was just, that was a lot of fun. These are awesome.
It was. Yeah, it really was. And I mean, if you've got an HO layout or if you're part of a modular club, we're not going to be locked indoors forever. I foresee that at some point we're going to be going back to shows. And I know N-Scale, there's a lot of guys out there that are into, Fremo or some type of modular. These just present well at a show. If you get a string of these, oh man, they just, it can be somewhat time consuming to fill them all up with the appropriate vehicles, just, trying to find all those vehicles out there. But either way, they just present really well. And in fact, I've got one here from the previous run. What I'll do is I'm going to minimize you guys for a second. I'll minimize this screen. And here is one that we had in stock. Now, you remember Tony was saying these are hard to get. This is the Union Pacific from the last run. These are hard to get because they sell out so quickly in either HO or in. So you're going to want to pre-order them sooner than later because they, as Tony just said, they don't last long.
And now you're doing these in both, right? This is, I think, these same road names. We're looking at the Genesis HO, but then there's also, I think, all 6 of these will also be in scale in the same run.
That's correct, yes. Yep, so the N-Scale guys out there that are wondering, hey, what about us? Don't worry, we got you covered on this run. We've got these in HO and N-Scale. And, it's amazing. The N-Scale ones, man, the amount of detail on them is just really nice. It's sometimes hard, if you get the right picture, it's hard to tell if they're actually N scale. I think, let me remove this here real quick. I think I got a picture of the one that I just showed. Let me go find that real quick.
There's a lot of detail to them. At first you think it's just this kind of skeletal flat car with multiple levels. Like, well, how much could there be to it? But man, once you start looking at these, that chain along the top railing, the like circus loading all the stuff to them, the brake rigging things, these are amazing. I mean, well, they're Genesis, so you'd expect it, but again, it's a prototype that I don't think at first hits you as, oh yeah, those are so intricate. But once you start looking at these, you see all sorts of things. Yeah.
Yeah, you can see that picture does it a little bit more justice than my camera here in the studio, but you can see the detail. This is the same car that's in that picture that we've got up there. Yeah, this one is, Terry, you're absolutely right. This one's a tri-level. So this one would be, more used for your cars and stuff. And so you can get some really cool cars on here. And we're talking again, late 60s into the 70s. We really didn't see the anti-vandalism panels and things of that nature come in until probably what, Tony, late 70s, early 80s?
Pretty much. I think and especially that's a brown trailer train flat car, that the brown to yellow for trailer train, I think is like 1968 or 69 is when that happened. Right. Of course, they didn't paint them all overnight. So as we all know with railroading things, 30 years later, there might have been one sitting someplace. But in general, yeah, I would call that a mid to late 60s new Union Pacific level. And yeah, they started experimenting and playing with putting panels on the sides and then the roof and the ends. But it's really, I think, closer to 1980 before that's kind of a more regular thing to see. And it's still hit and miss. You'll see, trains with, a mixture of open and closed racks.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, now, have either of you guys seen how they load these with the cars?
Oh, with the little, drive up things. Yeah.
It's pretty cool. I mean, that's a job to have. When I lived in Northern Illinois, I was not too far from the Belvedere plant where a lot of great Mopar vehicles were made in the past. And currently at that time, they were building Jeep Patriots, I believe. And you would just see these strings of these 89-foot auto racks, backed up to the factory. And they were paying people to just drive these up a ramp and drive them all through the train and just slowly, get them loaded in there. And then they go up to the next level and then the next level. And they had a van, like a shuttle van, going back and forth to load all these cars into that train. I always thought that'd be kind of a fun job.
That would be neat. Yeah, it would be.
So going back to, I'll bring this picture down and we'll bring up the announcement again. There's some great roads that we're doing this time, and they're reflective of more of the 1960s into the early 70s. Let's see. Let me bring that guy back up. There he is. And one that caught my attention besides the CB&Q was at New York Central and the Jade. Is that cool or what?
Yeah. Most definitely. And, and some of that's one thing on these racks. Some of them, like Whitehead and Kales and various people made that superstructure to go on, what would be an existing flat car in those days, that they weren't always built new, that sometimes they took flat cars, made them auto racks, and vice versa. At times they, buzz off the auto rack and turn it back into a flat car. So some of the railroads own the whole thing. Like on that New York Central, it's a solid green. The Frisco might be trailer train. I'm not sure. It looks like the IC, the Northern Pacific, and the CB&Q are brown, so they'd be like up to about 68.9 trailer train. But like the New York Central, and there were other roads too that own the flat car as well. So that's another thing. There were pools that they operated in like trailer train, where only the superstructure would have the railroad's name and or its colors. So you might have like an orange top with that IC, but then the bottom is a brown or yellow flat car for trailer train. Whereas that New York Central, it's all theirs, and that makes it really striking in that jade green.
Oh yeah, it really does. And I mean, this is kind of you don't really want to say the beginning. Now I know there's a great book out there that talks about, pretty much the history and current use of the auto racks, but this was probably the beginning of what we consider the modern day auto rack. This is kind of like the phase one, if you will. And so if you're a modeler out there that's doing HO and the well, as far as N too, because we are offering them an N scale, and we'll talk about them on a future broadcast. That maybe you don't have the room in your layout, but if you are part of a modular club, these do present well. And man, we see a lot of the modern day ones, but if you bring one of these to a show, especially if you're I saw the comment out there, I can't remember who said it, but you're right, it can be expensive to fill these because those little HO scale cars, they get pricey. But if you can get one filled up, man, imagine the people that's going to stop and look at your train at the next train show.
Yeah, for sure.
And there's a lot of options on the cars. I mean, yeah, when you talk price, you can go crazy on stuff. I've got a couple of those. I think it's Neo that does resin, and I couldn't resist it. They did a late 70s Lincoln Mark V, and I think it was like $30 or $40. Like, man, that's crazy. But I do have one of those. But then there's things like Oxford Diecast, and they're starting to do some 1960s prototypes, and their cars are $10.99, and they're fully assembled, fully decorated. So there are options out there.
Oh, wow.
And it seems like
That's cool.
the AMX Javelin and that late 60s Tyco Camaro, they must have made so many of those that to this day, I still, when you look at a parking lot or like this, it's like, oh my gosh, the guy has a brand new Genesis rack and he loaded it with old Tyco Camaros.
Probably more of those Camaros than there were of the actual car.
Yeah, the real ones made, yeah. So there you go. There's always options on loading your cars up, yeah.
Yeah. I think it was
Aaron. I got two questions for you.
Yeah.
Do you model, and if you do, what do you specifically model?
I do. Currently, I'm kind of more modern era mostly. But during 2020, I ended up getting some kind of late steam and early diesel Pacific Northwest stuff. So kind of your GN, NP, and SPNS stuff. But I'm primarily
Very
kind
cool.
of a BNSF guy. But definitely like early to mid 70s BN is something I'd definitely like to get a little bit of maybe eventually. And those NP auto racks would be perfect for that. These are just neat cars with just an opportunity to load them. Yeah, I think it was Mike Buddy on Ken Patterson's show did an entire one of like 77 Firebirds with the Rockford Files one and the Smoking the Bandit Trans Am.
Oh yeah,
that was just really cool.
definitely.
Mike Buddy's work on HO vehicles is just fantastic. Yeah, he is the artisan of HO automobiles. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I've got, for the modern guys, I've got something for you, including yourself, Aaron. And before I go on to the next one, Brad, I see your comment out there. Anybody that's got questions about a current release or something that's coming up and you have some concerns or questions about it, you can go to our Athearn webpage, go to the Contact Us page, and there's a product suggestions email. Just go ahead and drop that in there, and it may take a little bit, but we will read those and we will get back to you. So, like I said, anything that you've got concerns or questions about a production run type thing, just go to that Contact Us page and go to the product suggestions and drop us a line because we are listening. All right, so moving on, I'm going to bring in the next item. And this is going to be something probably a little bit more up Aaron's alley. Now, I know in the Northeast, LP is kind of a big thing. We see a lot of Vermont Rail and Pan Am and Norfolk Southern, CSX with a lot of LP service. How about out there out west, Aaron? Is that as big out there?
To an extent, I think we definitely end up getting it in our UP and BNSF manifest to some, and probably some of the short lines too.
Well, we've got some of those that are coming in stock, and I'll show those in a little bit. In the Genesis line, we're also reintroducing our 13,000-gallon acid tank cars. Let me bring that up so we can all see that. And these are probably something that you're familiar with, Aaron. A lot of these that we're showing in this are mid-2000s on up. We've got a pretty good selection within about 20 years in the group here. But do those look familiar at all?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, we get a lot of Procore tank cars. And I think, yeah, just UTLX too. it's definitely something you need for kind of a modern manifest. It's just you're kind of your everyday tank car, but there's so many variations. They're just really interesting. Like the UTLX with that kind of blue teal stripe on it. That's pretty cool looking.
Yeah, no, it's really cool. And now, Aaron, do you have an actual layout? Or are you working on one?
A little bit. I have just kind of a 4x8 right now that doesn't really have much scenery on it, but it's enough I can run trains and do some really basic operations.
There you go. Well, these are great for that because they're not quite, even though they're modern cars, they're not quite as big as some of the modern cars. And these are great for, some type of industrial switching industry within your large layout, or maybe you've got a switching layout. They work real well for this. And of course, we've offered a variety of different eras, everything from the early 2000s till present day, and we even got one for prime for grime, which those are always fun because they come pre-faded out with a little bit of work and a little bit of weathering. It really makes them look the part.
I love those kind of cars, and it's funny because I really don't do that much weathering, but it's amazing how many times they catch my eye in a hobby shop because so much of everything I buy is the brand new glossy whatever, and then I'll see like some faded blue, the rock hopper that's patched and whatever. It's like, oh, that's cool, and I'll end up buying more of those prime for grime than I ever thought I would. But it's a nice.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it really is nice. I mean, and that's one area, Aaron, that I think the younger guys have got us beat. A lot of us are so used to, working on our freight cars, working on our locomotives and putting them on the track and just being happy with them. Whereas the younger guys, they really have an eye for what the freight cars and locomotives look like. So we see a lot of great weathering stuff out there. And how about it, Aaron? Are you at the point where you're doing a lot of weathering on your freight cars?
A little bit. I've done. I have a blue box BN caboose that I turned into a BNS show platform, and I did some weathering on that. I haven't gotten to it too much, but it's definitely cool. And I have a couple friends who are really into weathering. One of them picked up one of the ready to rust faded UPES 44s the other day. And that came out really well with just kind of a basic road grime wash on it. And those are really, really neat.
Yeah, those are really cool. I've had them here in the studio myself personally. I don't have one yet, but it's probably going to happen sooner than later, as long as my domestic goddess downstairs doesn't hear me talk about the budget like that. So, to everybody out there that's watching, hope you're enjoying the show. Hope you're enjoying our guests here, Tony and Aaron, talk about everything that we've got going on today. This is all of the Genesis that we're offering this month in the February time frame. You've got till the end of February, which is a short month. Don't forget, you've got till the 26th to go to your dealer and order any of these products that we're showing today. And I guarantee you there's at least 1, 2, or more of the SD70 Aces that you probably would best pre-order. Don't you think, Tony? Because I'm thinking if you don't pre-order at least one of those, you're going to miss out.
I think if you're on the fence at all, especially on that Montana Rail link, I wouldn't wait on that because you'll be kicking yourself and bidding against people on eBay after the thing's been out. So no, do yourself a favor if you want that one. And those UP Heritage are always good sellers too. So, but
they
certainly
really are.
If I was the Vegas odds maker guy, I'd say, the Montana Rail link, the thank you one for essential workers. Make sure you get an order in for that one.
Yeah, no, I was really excited when they did Montana Rail Link. I actually have an N-scale Montana Rail Link that I did years ago. Actually, it was from an article from, I believe, your magazine or RMC. I can't remember. It was many years ago, back when they had the former Burlington Northern SD40s. And the only reason why I did that in N-scale was because I just thought Montana Rail Link was a cool line. And I happened to have all the detail parts that I needed, so I went ahead and did it. And ever since, I've been a fan. And so when we announced that we were going to be doing the SD70 Aces in the Montana Rail Link, I was like, man, I'm in trouble. This is going to be a tight month.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cool things here.
it was a railroad I was always aware of because, they had the XB stuff, like they had F45s and SD45s, so I knew of them. But yeah, it was my assistant editor, Shane Mason's one that was the big MRL fan that suddenly I'm always hearing about it. So I'm watching videos, and like I said, I picked up that hardcover book that White River did some years back. So yeah, he's turned me into a big MRL fan. Yeah. And
it's just a cool road.
How many times does that happen to you in the hobby? When there's something that you don't know about or couldn't, oh yeah, I'm not really into that. And then somebody says, "Well, you ever seen this? Or did you know this is where they operated? Or here's how this works?" And then suddenly it's, "Oh, that's really cool. Yeah, I'm interested in that now." Yeah,
definitely. Definitely. Yeah, and I see some of the comments out there. Thank you for the kind comments about our format of the show. And for the SP fans, do not worry. There's stuff later on, not in this broadcast, but in future broadcasts right around the corner. SP guys are going to be really happy. Don't you think so, Tony?
Oh boy, have we got SP? I think is that next week or one of the weeks coming up.
That's next week.
You and I we've got SP and Rio Grande stuff galore. So get ready. Yeah,
definitely. Aaron, how about you? I see you've got those great Midwest and into the Pacific Northwest roads behind you. You ever see any Montana Rail Link or any dabble into SP stuff?
Yeah, I've seen some SP out here. We get a few of the UP patched out units. We had one of the GP60s that's kind of stuck between Portland and Seattle, and I've seen that a few times. And some of the AC44s, and those are neat. Unfortunately, most of the Montana Rail Link stuff doesn't usually get further east than Pasco. So they kind of stay on the other side of the Cascades, but it's definitely something might have to go try to find eventually, because with the blue and white, they're just really, really good looking locomotives.
It is. It really is. Hey, before I go on to some new stuff, Mike O'Neill's got something. It's kind of a comment, and it's actually something I wanted to remind everybody. Mike, I'm going to use you as an example here. He says, "Oh man, you canceled the sugar beet cars." Yeah, you're right, Mike. And while we're on that subject, let me tell you why we did that. When we announced those about a year ago, we had put the idea of putting certain details on there and things of that nature, and we had advertised them for a certain price. Well, unfortunately, with working with the factory and with some inflation that's happened and things of that nature, they came back. Sometimes if it's a small price increase, we can go ahead and, we can take care of that. But unfortunately, in this case, we couldn't pass that price increase onto you. We didn't feel that was fair. So rather than say, hey, here's the product, and by the way, it's more than what you originally thought, we thought the best thing to do would be to just cancel that. Now, that doesn't mean you won't see them in the future. We're hoping in the future to offer them, but we wanted to be upfront about the pricing, and that was the biggest reason. So, yeah, I know it's disappointing, but I'd rather disappoint than say, hey, here's your – I used to work at a dealership. There would be nothing worse to say, hey, here's your brand new fill in the blank. Oh, by the way, it's $20,000 more than what we advertised. That doesn't go over well with people. And so we wanted to just give you that clarification on those sugar beet cars. It wasn't easy for us to do, but at the end, we felt that was the best thing. Okay, so I have got some interesting stuff here. I feel like an anchor man or something. I have got some cool stuff that's coming out soon, and I know you guys are going to want to see this. So one of the first things I got, remember we were talking about propane and all of that earlier. This is why I'm building an HS scale switching layout. Here's the Genesis LPG cars, and I'm going to zoom this in a little bit. I'm going to minimize Tony and Aaron real quick. Check these out. Now, I know you can't see the detail because my big fat fingers are in front of everything, but these things are great. The body mounted couplers, the metal wheels, all of that data. If I had the eyes of somebody younger than me, say Aaron, I could probably read that descriptor right there. Tell you what I'll do is I'm going to share a picture for you so you guys can see this car. Let's see. And these are going to be in stock in the next few weeks. So these were announced last year. There we go. These were announced last year. And if you did not pre-order them, you're going to want to get with your dealer now and see if that he might have ordered some extras. These are absolutely beautiful. They They run great, and I'm just amazed at all the detail. Now, they are Genesis, so I will warn you, they have a lot of detail to them. You might not want to take this to your next fun run or show because of all of that detail is very easily broken. So if you've got a club layout or a home layout or even a small switching layout, look these up. These should be in we're probably talking early to mid-March. I wanted to give you guys a heads up because they are going to be here soon, and they're probably going to sell out fast. So something to think about. Now, another one that I've got a picture of, and this was taken by the guys out in Long Beach. All right. This brings back some memories. I got to bring in Tony and Aaron back for this because this is going to bring back memories for them too. The big old Triclops. Let's see. You got now, Aaron. You probably don't see many of these anymore. It's kind of hard for me to believe these are old locomotives now. But you see too many of these out there, Aaron?
I caught kind of the very end of the Cascade Green ones when I started actively rail fanning around 2016. I think BNSF had a few locally. I think it was 1401 and 1403 were kind of our local patched out ones. And right now we have a couple in the area, but they're all kind of overhauled and repainted in the swoosh scheme in orange. But they're really neat. I might have to get a couple of green ones.
I see them a lot here in the Kansas City area now. As you say, those in the all new paint scheme, which is kind of eye catching because it's a slightly older SD and yet it looks brand new because they've just painted it. But yeah, this kind of late era BN when they were playing around with some of the white stripes and things on the nose, it's really eye catching. And I think the flags come in on what BN and Santa Fe at Desert Storm? I think in the early 90s is when
91. Yeah, that's true. I actually got one, have one of these in the studio. I'll go ahead and minimize this screen here. And these bring back a lot of great memories for me because when I first moved to Illinois, I was rail fanning the CNI of the BNSF, which at the time the BNSF was a new railroad. And these were my favorite wide cab at the time. These were still plying the rails, doing their best to fill the demands of a power-hungry railroad. And man, the white face, which is what this one here is, and of course the Triclops because of that interesting arrangement of the windows. Really, was real easy to catch that out in the wild when you were out there taking pictures in the indigenous environment of the SD60Ms. And then, of course, later on, they went to a 2-window piece, and they kind of simplified things a little bit as far as the aesthetics part of it. But, yeah, you're absolutely right, Tony. This would represent one that would be from the early 90s with the big flag on the sides of the cab.
They are sharp-looking units. I think we ran that. We had a news thing, a couple pages in the last 6 months or so, I think was 3 windows. And I had some pictures from an EMD open house that I included with that I have to dig those up and I'll put them out on Facebook. But it was fun to see them because they were brand new and General Motors was showing them off there at LaGrange.
Yeah, beautiful. And I'm watching the comments, and Zach out there, Zach knows where to hit me hard. He's got his request. He wants a legendary liveries, and Tony, think about how cool this would be. A legendary liveries, GP40-2 and Harvest Gold Main Central.
That would be good. Yeah.
That would be kind of cool. And what would be, I don't know how Zach would feel about it, but what if it was a wide cab, like Pan Am Guilford era heritage unit. I mean, they actually did some heritage units. I don't think they did that one, but
yeah,
that'd be kind of cool. I mean, Zach, you're hitting me where it hurts, man. You're going to have to go to our website and hit the comments or the product suggestions and put that in, see if that's something that comes in. And, the funny thing is Zach brings up a good comment. It's a great segue too, because we did the ES44 in the legendary liveries. in a paint scheme similar to this. I think you've got one, don't you, Tony?
I've got it, but I don't have it open. But yeah, I've got the giant
Amtrak.
Yeah, this is going to be
You know,
our May Model Railroad News is Amtrak's 50th anniversary. But yeah, I've got a BN and a Black Widow SP that's going to be reviewed well. How did these go? I assume these sold pretty well. I haven't seen them anyplace.
Good thing you got the BN one, because the BN ones are gone. We don't have any more.
And see,
Totally
that's what
gone.
I always say that when these guys are like, "Oh, why do you do these, legendary liveries or things that are not real paint schemes?" I love them,
Right.
and I always hear they sell out great. So every time I see somebody complain, I'm like, "Complain all you want. I buy them. I know a lot of people buy them." And like, this is so awesome. A big 6-axle Amtrak Pepsi can. That's very
Sure.
cool.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's, when I moved to Illinois, I first moved here and I was a huge BNSF fan, but I started seeing what I call ghosts of the CB&Q. And I mean, going back to the 50s and 60s, the CB&Q was such a classy railroad. I mean, the paint schemes, the cool equipment they had. And I started feeling myself wanting to model some CB&Q, which I ended up doing. And then I thought, man, how cool would it be to see an ES44 in Chinese red and gray, and, a lot of guys, as you know, just like you said, a lot of guys are like, oh, why don't you do something more prototypical, say like the SD60 that we've got here? Why do you keep doing these what if schemes? And the reason being is, quite honestly, they sell really well. And the good news is, for all the guys out there that are hardcore prototype guys, which we love you guys, the cool thing is when people buy those, that lets us do the really cool prototype stuff.
Exactly.
So yeah, so the prototype guys, don't give up, because we're still doing prototype stuff. And if you have information, I know the guys at Long Beach and R&D are more than happy to get any information you guys have, because we want your prototype stuff to be spot on. But they sold out. They've already sold out at the BN. And Aaron, you said earlier you model modern day, and it's mainly BNSF. If you had a wish of a heritage unit or a what if, what do you think it would be?
Ooh, that's a difficult one. Maybe the two-tone green NP on something modern BNSF as a heritage unit would be really cool. Or maybe something SPNS. Or Great Northern Blue. Yeah. Just really any
SPNS
of the
would be cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I think you guys did a SPNS AC 4400 at one point a couple years back, and it'd be nice if BNSF were to do some actual heritage units, maybe eventually.
That set you guys did, it's been a couple 2 or 3 years ago, and that's one that I reserved everything when they were announced. I think it was an SD 50 or 60 in Northern Pacific, and then the rest were GEs, Burlington Red, Simplified Empire Builder, Great Northern, and then SP&S. And man, what a neat set when you had all those hill roads out with modern power in their pre-BN schemes. That was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
No, it really is. And I mean, for Tony, you and I mean, we come from an era where it wasn't that long ago where almost everything that we bought that was a model was a what if scheme, because they would just run, generic locomotives with any paint scheme on it they could. The younger guys in the audience are kind of didn't have to go through that. They're kind of hey, this guy here is based on actual prototype drawings and everything else. So yeah, I guess in the modern way, we're kind of spoiled, but we offer the legendary liveries for those guys that, maybe in their modeling world, the CB&Q never turned into the BN or BNSF. It stayed around. So kind of a cool thing. So something else I wanted to share with you guys, and then we're going to go to do some virtual rail fanning and hang around out there, guys, for questions for Aaron or Tony or myself. But I had a few videos I wanted to share with you guys. Let me go ahead and share my screen. And we're going to talk a little bit of N-scale here real quick. Let's see. Here we go. And I'll go ahead and start playing it a little bit so everybody can get an idea of what's going on here. Okay, so this is Dominic with DJ Trains. He did a review on our recently in stock 53-foot bulkhead flat cars, kind of an older flat car. And the thing I like about his channel is he actually works for CSX. He's an engineer. So he brings to the table all kinds of knowledge about the inner workings of a railroad and why you would use certain pieces of equipment on your model railroad. So go check out his channel and his link. This is again on the Athearn N scale 53-foot bulkhead flat cars. And here you can see he's reviewing the BNSF ones, which unfortunately we're already sold out on those. They sold quickly. But we do have some other lines that are available. You can order them through your local hobby shop or your online retailer of your choice. If you don't have any availability there, go to DJ's channel, and he's got links in his video of where you can purchase these online. But if you're not familiar with DJ's Trains, he's got a great channel talking about mainly N-scale stuff. And again, he has the background as an engineer, so he really explains things well. Makes it a lot easier to model. And for those guys that might forget, like myself, what I've done is stay on our Facebook page. And tonight I've got a link for this specific review on these cars. So watch our Facebook page. I think it's going to get posted around 6 o'clock Central Time. And or if you miss it, just go to DJ's Trains. He has had a YouTube channel up for a couple of years now and done a great job with all of his modeling and background. And the thing I like about his channel too, Tony, is he's really into industries. Mm-hmm. And he has a drone, so he can actually fly the drone, so you can see more than just trudging around on the ground. Which, man, I could have used him a few years ago when I was trying to do that industrial job, but definitely.
It's nice to have that perspective of someone that's in the railroad. I always find that when I read or talk to somebody that says, well, why that's there or why we don't do that. It's like, oh, I never thought about it. Because again, as modelers, we're not really working with the one-to-one version of this. So it's like, well, why are the loops up on the coupler cut bars later? It's like, well, you reach over instead of trying to come around and reach up, and like, oh, yeah, I never thought of that. But so yeah, it's a good perspective. Yeah. It's
a great perspective. And then I've got another video. Recently, I have to say it right. It's DG Model Works. Now that's Derek over at DG Model Works. He did a great review of the recently released Genesis SD80s. He did a Conrail one, and he did a Norfolk Southern one. And we've had some feedback from modelers who are like, man, I can't quite see the number boards, or I can't quite see the ground lights. And Derek is one of these guys that's, he's really well versed in DCC. And he picked up on that too, because he got some remarks on his review. So let me share this video with you real quick, because Derek is one of those guys that likes to help out fellow modelers. He did a really cool instructional video on how you can adjust the light CVs on the SD80 Max. So let me find that real quick.
I remember seeing that, and I shared that with my reviewer that just got the Conrail sample. And I said, take a look at this, because let's make sure we include this in the review.
Yeah, Derek does a great job of explaining. Now, for the camera, I will say he went to extremes. He took the CV ratings all the way up. That way you can see him on the camera, because sometimes with a camera with a well-lit studio, you don't see much difference. So what he's done is he's gone step by step. He's working on the number boards, the ground lights, even the ditch lights. And by tweaking that a little bit, you can adjust it to your liking. Now, of course, we all know that all these Genesis locomotives, they come from the factory pretty much ready to go. Some guys don't even put an address on them. They just run them on address number 3. But most guys will put an address on them and they run them. But what we fail to forget is you can adjust the light intensity especially with the Genesis 2.0 that have the lit up number boards and ground lights, you can adjust that. So if you're doing an op sessions and it's, you don't want it pitch dark because you're trying to run trains, but you want it dark enough so you can see those lights, you can actually adjust that. As you can see here in this video, that's what Derek is doing. He's adjusting the CV for those lights so they can get as bright or as dim as to your personal liking. So shout out to Derek over at DG Model Works, and check out his channel. He's done some reviews for us, and he's got a great layout over there. He's kind of in the Pennsylvania area, so he's doing some Norfolk Southern. So if you're a fan of Norfolk Southern and HO, definitely go check out his channel. And want to thank him. That was something he did for the modelers, and that's what's great about this hobby is it's just modelers helping modelers.
Well, and what's so neat now between Facebook, YouTube, all these kind of shows like yours is we find these things out that way back when it was you had to hope you'd bump into somebody at a hobby shop that maybe was talking about that subject, and you said, yeah, can you do that? Oh yeah, you can raise the luminance on the number boards. It's like, oh, I didn't even know. There's so many things like that now that we almost take for granted, that this information that we have and share that you never had before. There just wasn't any way to get it. So no, that's spectacular.
Yeah, it really is. Now, how about you, Aaron? Do you have a club that you belong to, or are you more of a forums type guy, or what do you do to get your information?
Yeah, right now, I've been on YouTube for a really long time, and I occasionally put videos up, but right now I'm not part of a club, but there's a couple local clubs I need to get around to joining eventually. It's just kind of hard to find time with college right now, but yeah, and I have just kind of friends who I text a lot about, who are model railroaders or rail fans and whatever, and going over that. Actually, great. When we saw the Tacoma Rail announcement, we were all on an Instagram video call, and I think about at least 3 of us are now probably going to be about $600 more poor after buying both road numbers.
Oh man, oh that's great. Yeah, I mean it's so neat how we get our information, like you said, Tony. I mean, in the when dinosaurs roamed the earth and Tony and I were younger, there was the train club where you get stuff, and there was, of course, magazines. When I first joined my railroad club, I'm ashamed to say I don't think there was an internet yet. I don't think Al Gore had gotten to that yet. So yeah, it was literally, sometimes we had a library at our club, and you could say, hey, here's an RMC article from 1986 that describes what you do. And, we didn't think of it. And now Aaron and a lot of guys your age, we don't even think about it anymore. We've got channels like DG Model Works or DJ Trains that show us information. And it's just so amazing how, in conjunction with the magazines that are put out like RMC and Model Railroad News, in conjunction with these great YouTube channels, I mean, we're in a great spot in model railroading right now. It's probably one of the best times to be a model railroader.
Oh, I mean, the information that you can research on the internet on prototype stuff, find out about models, that's incredible. I mean, you think now when as you say, where are you going to go to find that stuff out? And now it's like, well, let me sit down here and Google it. So yeah, it's an amazing time for both rail fanning and model railroading. Yeah, definitely. One more thing that I want to tell all of our fans out there. We were talking about truckers earlier, and you'll see in front of me here, I've got these beautiful Athearn 53-foot reefers. These just came in. Now, these were announced last March or February. These are the HO 53-foot reefers. I've got the Stevens Transport, which I'm sure you guys have seen those out on the highway. And then this one here is, this is a, oh man, my eyes are getting so bad as I've gotten older. But these are so nicely detailed. You've got you can't really see, let's shove it into the camera a little bit. The detail, even all of the writing on the back, but these just came into stock. And I will let you know that some of these have already sold out. I think they came in about a week ago, and some of them are already sold out. So if you're in the need in HO scale for some 53-foot reefers, talk to your dealer now and get some, because these never last long. Anytime we come out with reefers or HO scale trucking equipment, it just never lasts. And I don't know if the current Model Railroad News Canadian, and I can't remember if it's the next, the one that'll be out soon, the editorial, the March issues on freight cars. And I talked about how freight cars have, suddenly came into this, they've got to be as detailed as locomotives. And in the editorial, I mention and I show that Boston and Maine and some of the other trailers of that new run that came out. I think they're 40 or 45s and other trailers and containers. And so that to me is that next frontier, that just as locomotives had to be road specific and detailed, now rolling stock freight cars have to be. That now I suddenly see in the popularity, as you say, the way they sell, but suddenly now a piggyback can't just be a piggyback. It's like, well, is it the right kind, and does it have this on it? And suddenly we pay attention to that more. That
is true. Well, I'm going to bring up the rail cam. Thanks to our friends over at Virtual Railfan. And where are we going today? I'm going to go a little bit closer to Aaron's neck of the woods. Not quite, but we're going to go to California. We're going to go to Barstow, California. Looks like there's something there. So let the rail cam pick up here. Hey, look at the timing.
Nice.
Very nice.
Very nice. That almost never happens. There we go. And then this is the part of the show where myself and even Aaron and Tony will answer your questions. So one question I did see out there recently, somebody was asking if we've ever done locomotives or even freight cars without road numbers. I think we experimented with that a long time ago, probably 20 years ago, and it didn't really work as well as we thought. So now one of the things you can do, and it's a little bit harder with modern stuff since the locomotives seem to be so specific to the road. One of the things you can do is very carefully with some rubbing alcohol and a cotton cloth, you can actually take those numbers off and then use something like a microscale decal and put your own decals on. So if you go to our YouTube channel, actually, there's a video on how to do that. So if you haven't seen that video, go ahead and take a look at that, and that'll give you an idea of how easy it is to add your own, numbers. And Kevin, you are right. Rubbing alcohol will work, but be careful. If you let it sit on there too long, or if you use like a 91% rubbing alcohol, it will start to take the paint off. So unless you want to do a ready to weathered locomotive, just be careful with that. So, guys, what do you think? It was a big show. We had a lot of stuff going on.
As always, yeah. A lot of neat stuff. It's been a busy week with Amherst stuff and everything else. It's been hobby overdrive, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it really has. Now, Aaron, while I look at some questions here that are coming in, what have you been doing as far as railroading? I know you're in college, so you're a busy guy, but what have you been doing in your spare time as far as model railroading or rail fanning?
Yeah, right now I haven't gotten out to rail fan too much this year. Pretty much so far this year. I think it was just earlier in January I went and saw one of the BC Rail -9s that's still around in the red, white, and blue scheme. I think that's an upcoming Genesis announcement, I believe, the 4-window.
Nice.
Yeah. And then model-wise, working on a few projects, actually talking about the renumbering method. I'm redoing it's almost done, but a ready to roll SW1000 from a few years back and making it kind of a local unit, which is pretty neat. And then accidentally started modeling N-scale a little bit with kind of a 2x4 based on the Seattle North Coast, which was a former Milwaukee line out in the Olympic Peninsula of Washington State. Yeah,
cool.
I need to put that up on my YouTube channel, but eventually.
Very cool. I saw a question I want to get to because it had the word Canada in it. Mm-hmm. And we never want to forget our friends up north. Where did he go? He had a question about Canadian stuff, and I wanted to answer it. Well, I'm sorry I didn't get your name, but let me let you know. Basically, his question was, what do you guys got new for the Canadian guys? When you say what's new, are you talking about actual new prototype stuff? Because we've got some great ES44s in stock and CP. They're the retrucked ES44s. And if you go over to BA Rail System, Ben's done a great review on that ES44, and man, CP Rail. There's so many great paint schemes out there, but I kind of have a soft spot for CP because growing up in New England, we'd see them go through Vermont and stuff. So check that out. Now, if you're looking for something older, we've got some other offerings that are still in stock, and we've got some stuff coming up soon that you're going to want to stay posted about. So keep an eye out. If the ES44s aren't what you're looking for, keep an eye out. We've got some other stuff coming in Canadian National and some other stuff. What do you got here, Tony? I'm going to add this real quick.
I was looking for, there was something I thought you guys had announced Canadian-wise, and now I'm not finding it.
Okay.
What was it, Aaron? You helped me with pictures on it. What was?
Oh, the SD70 ACU, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. Those are new. Yeah, those will be here in November. So
Okay.
yeah, definitely. Oh, let's see. I've got a question here. Okay, this one, Tony. This one's for you. This is coming from Zach. Whoops, sorry, wrong one. There we go. Zach Malcolm. He wants to know, Tony, what was your first train?
I think my first HO train, it's an F unit set that my dad custom painted GM&O. And I don't know if it was an Athearn, the old Globe F unit, or a Tyco F unit. And I think it was like, I was 2 years old. It would have been Christmas of like 68.
Mm-hmm.
So an F unit in HO, which,
That's cool.
Yeah.
Okay, Michael. Michael, if you were the guy that asked about the new Canadian stuff, I apologize for missing that. But his suggestion, and I yeah, you got a cool suggestion. Any chop nose CP rail. Nothing right away, but we're always on the lookout for new stuff. And by the way, Michael, if you've got anything prototype wise you'd like to share with Athearn, by all means contact us, because we were talking about those SD70 ACUs earlier. We worked very closely with CP Rail on those, and man, that was really exciting. It was really cool to make a model like that and working so closely with a Class 1 railroad.
It's a really interesting prototype, and it was one, I guess I wasn't that familiar with what it was. Aaron had supplied pictures for, it was in our January edition of it, and it's, how does that work, Aaron? It's a rebuild of what, the old 4390 Max, but they put a new nose on it, I think.
Yeah, I think it was the 4390s. Yeah, it was one of the SD90 series. I think it's a combination of mostly CPs and then like a couple of UP to replace the ones that got scrapped or something.
Yeah.
I know that Jim and Janik had talked about it on the stream they did with the announcement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. We've got some suggestions coming in on the legendary liveries too. I'm going to pass this by you, Tony, and see what you think. I know what I think. And you're welcome, by the way, Michael. Thanks for getting in touch with us. Trying to get, there we go. Technical difficulties. Legendary liveries, ES44AC in purple, Atlantic Coastline, and the Citrus Seaboard, Southern in both schemes. That would be I don't know about you, Tony, but I think that'd be a pretty spectacular.
That would be a neat set. Yeah, I'd like to, that citrus color of those Seaboard, those E units, it's almost a white looking color, but not. And of course, that purple and silver ACL, man, all those, it's fun to see all that stuff on a new wide nose locomotive. So yeah, definitely.
For sure.
Definitely.
And Southern both, I think we're talking green and imitation aluminum, and the tuxedo black and imitation aluminum, which again, white, but I think that's its name. Yeah.
Let's see. I've got two really good ones here. I'm going to try to catch them. I'm going to get with Sean first. And his request is legendary livery Santa Fe war bonnets and SD70 Aces and SD70 Max. Well, and the Aces, man, that would look good. I mean,
that would be,
can you imagine if BNSF said one day, hey, you know what? We're gonna go back to our roots. We're gonna go back to the war bonnet, which is probably one of the most iconic paint schemes anyways. And we were talking about the Super Fleet a couple of weeks ago, and I don't know. That's a scheme that probably looks good on just about anything.
Well, and the thing when you do the legendary liveries on something like that is close, because they got up to what 75 M's,
Right.
that a guy that models maybe early 90s Santa Fe could have those and now move his layout forward a bit, and it's still Santa Fe, but there's modern power. There's kind of that bigger jump from like an Atlantic coastline that was merged out in the late 60s to have modern power. But like the BNSF, FP45s that you've got coming in that new group. Again, there's one of those where you almost have to stop for a second and go, oh yeah, no, those didn't exist, but boy, it almost could have, So yeah, those I think can be a lot of fun in that it is so close, that it's not as far-fetched as, say, a Pennsylvania or something. It's like, well, that road never even came close to being around for wide nose or ditch lights. But some of these others, it is I almost have to stop and think if that's real or not.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. And like we said with our last month's release, the legendary livery FP45s. I mean, we did one that was a Heritage 2 BNSF, and on the surface you're like, well, BNSF didn't use FP45s.
But you stop and think for a minute. Yeah, again, as I look, I'm like, well, yeah, I guess that's fake, but wow, it's awful close to being real.
It's awfully close. Yeah, I mean, I remember rail fanning the BNSF and here in Illinois in the late 90s, early 2000s, and you saw everything, anything that ran. The GP39Ms that still had the original, Corvette inspired cowl that the Corvette engineers over at EMD shared with. You saw stuff like that, and locomotives that you would have thought would have been at least relegated to yard duty were on the main line. And so I did not get to see those, but we have proof and pictures. So when they do a Heritage 2, it was pretty close to happening. It really was. One of the things that the guys in Long Beach do that you really have to appreciate, because in some ways it's almost harder than the prototype, is I call it Hollywood magic. How George Lucas would do these spaceships that they don't really exist, but the research that he put behind them made it that's plausible. That could happen. Same with the James Bond series. There were a lot of things that were just on the edge of believable, but they were plausible. And that's kind of what we did with the legendary liveries. It was not hard to imagine that, hey, if Western Pacific had retired their current fleet of passenger stuff and Amtrak had never happened, what would they have done? And that's probably the next logical step in the progression of updating their fleet.
Well, and you guys pay a good. I remember talking to Janik on that one time when the F59 PHIs came out. The Rio Grande one that I bought is numbered right after the Rio Grande F units. So it's like, well, that makes perfect sense, which is nice rather than just being like number 100 or something.
Right.
It's like, well, now if we really had a Rio Grande roster, these would fit in. And so, yeah, as you say, that magic part of it is the scenario is suddenly very believable of, oh, yeah, it would fit right into their roster after their other F units. So,
yeah. And I mean, that's
nicely done.
That's one of the things that's great about the guys over in R&D in Long Beach that do all the work on the prototype stuff. They are so well versed in, say, the SP or the Santa Fe, that they're so well versed in the rosters that they could say, okay, this is what would have happened had they not gone this direction. And it's based on some speculation and conjecture, but for the most part, it's like you said, it's not just, we're just going to throw these numbers on it and call it good. So, Matthew, I see your question here, and this is a great question. You're looking to get some PTC antennas for some of your older ES44s. You can order spare parts. Now, I don't know off the top of my head if those particular parts are in stock right now, but if you go to our website, you can do an advanced search, and you can look at the parts that we've offered on current and previous models, and we actually have a really good selection of parts that you can order through your dealer, or you can contact us. Now, if you do order through our website, please use the part numbers. Try to get as much information to our customer service department, because they are really busy this time of year, and COVID, of course, hasn't helped. But they would appreciate as much information as possible. Well, let's see. Does anybody have any questions for Aaron or Tony? I'm kind of looking back through here. There's some great suggestions. I'm seeing some great suggestions on stuff. But any questions?
Maybe
It looks like earlier it just kind of got quiet.
It did, yeah. Now that we're looking for trains. Another scheme that would be cool for the Aces, I know a friend of mine out in Missouri, out in Tony's neck of the woods, really wants them, but the Arkansas and Missouri SD70 ACs, and they're kind of the maroon and blue scheme. Those are really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to put this up because, Brian, I want to thank you for this. I'm going to put this up. This is to our staff in Long Beach, customer service and parts and all of that. Thank you, Brian, for that. Our customer service and our parts department, they really do appreciate it. There's a lot of work involved. I think sometimes we think it's like, I'm going to call up company A or B and I need this part. And man, why is it taking so long? And I should have this now. I think we've been kind of spoiled with some of the other things that we have in our lives, like Amazon. I can order a new color printer and it'll be here tomorrow on a Sunday or something. And, the hobby industry is a little bit different. And there are so many parts in that department. Just picking it is a huge task. So, Brian, thank you for extending that. We really appreciate it. Our parts and our customer service department, we really appreciate it too. So I just wanted to put that up there for our guys out in Long Beach. Let's see. Jonathan, you got a weekly request, and I've either missed it every week or not, so I'm going to throw you up here on the screen. So let's see what Jonathan's weekly request is. He's requesting Grand Trunk Western SD40-2 units. He's even got the units down in Union Pacific colors and HO Genesis. So Jonathan, I'm going to say you're from either originally Europe or you're in Canada because you spelled colors correctly. New England's kind of like Canada or Europe. So, yeah, that's a cool request. Jonathan, if you have not done that yet, and it sounds like you've got some great information, please go to our website, athearn.com, the Contact Us page, and the product suggestions, and put that in there. And if you've got some information, say pictures or things of that nature, you can add to that email. Please do. We're always on the hunt for something that you guys are looking for.
And you never know that stuff will hit you. I notice that when I'm scanning slides, I'll occasionally see something and go, oh, I remember Janik talking about that, or I think Athearn was working on this. And look, there's a back shot of one of those locomotives. And I'll email it off to you guys like, hey, throw this in your file. But yeah, it's neat to, everybody's got so much information out there that, bring it forward, that's how we get these models and that they come out correct.
That's right. I mean, there's so much, I was trying to explain to somebody that's not in the industry. I used to do custom painting for a number of years, and there's so much research that has to be done. You first pick the locomotive that you want to do, and then in my case, and a lot of people's cases, you had to specify what era you were doing, because that would determine the shade of the paint. That would determine where certain detail parts were located. And you still get one wrong every now and then. I've got some foo bars that I won't show on camera because I just realized after 15 years, I was supposed to take something off or put something on. And there's so much information. And the guys in Long Beach that do all the, research, I can say, well, I'm a Burlington Northern fan, or I'm a CB&Q fan, so I have a passion for it. And I only have to know my little corner of the world, whereas Athearn R&D, they have to know all of it. And if you ever saw their library, Tony, I bet you'd be jealous if you saw their library.
I'm sure I could spend a couple of days looking through stuff. So no, there's never enough input information, whether it's pictures, reference books. So yeah, if you got it out there, share it with somebody.
Yeah, and you bring up another good point, Tony. What a lot of people may not realize is if you're fans of our Instagram or Facebook page, or sometimes just the locomotive that you got in your hand, Tony has got a huge collection through Kevin Udaly and White River Publications. So thank you, Tony, because we used some pictures that you sent me, I think the other day, we'll be using on Facebook. And that's huge when you're a model railroader to have access to that much information. And man, you must have a really good cataloging system for all those pictures. It just amazes me. I'll come out with something new for the Athearn releases, and within a day, Tony's emailing me with all these pictures. It's like, where did you find these? This is gold.
Lots and lots of slide boxes, and they're divided by railroad and then numbered by roster. So like you'd start, Amtrak starts with 1 and goes up to whatever in the boxes, and some of it's scanned, some of it's not. But yeah, it's a huge collection, but is an amazing treasure trove for those things. And I think it's always fun, like when you guys announce 3 or 4 road numbers, to go and find the exact ones. Like on the tunnel motors we're going to talk about next week. It was fun to find not only the right Rio Grande number, but the right era when it was new and it had these details. But then it's fun too to find them later, like, oh, there it is with ditch lights and like an amber beacon put on its roof when SP was running it. So like, here's something you could do with that road number if you want to modify it. That it's interesting to kind of see that whole scope of. And so whenever you do those, I always try to find, like, I think I found you some as delivered tunnel motors to like later in life to show them weathered up. So yeah, we've got some fun pictures to look at next week on that new run of Ready to Roll SD40 P-2.
Yeah, and like I said, our Rio Grande fans and our SP fans are going to be really happy next week. So be sure to tune in for that. I'm seeing some comments out there for people asking about certain employees at Athearn. Man, we're busy. We are super busy, and we're hoping to, make you guys' days with the stuff that we're all working on. Guys out in Long Beach, they are working nonstop, and Janik, who's usually here on board with me, he has been super busy because, man, 21, we're going to have a great year. There's some great stuff. I wish I could tell you guys everything that's coming out, but I'm going to hold off on it. There's some great surprises coming around the corner, and but yeah, our guys in customer service do appreciate your concerns. They are busy. They're taking care of things, getting things done, which we really do appreciate. So thanks for asking about our fellow employees. There's so much that goes on behind me that nobody sees. There's just so much that's going on. I just have a small part of it by bringing the news to you guys. Well, let's see. I see some more questions and comments, but man, it's trying to pick the right one. You know what I mean? There's just so many good questions. Kevin's got a good suggestion. I'm going to put Kevin up here. He's asking for N&W in the burgundy scheme. That's cool. What do you think about that, Tony?
Yeah, that kind of passenger maroon color that was. Yeah. They had some like passenger Jeep 9s. And then remember, was it in the it had to have been the late 70s, because Norfolk Southern is 1982. What was it? They did C30s. They had a couple C30s in that maroon with the gold NW on the side. So yeah, I think that would be a fun scheme to see on a modern locomotive. Yeah. That
would be a really cool. Yeah. See, I mean, these are the suggestions. And I mean, I always tell Tony and Aaron, I tell these guys, it's like, we're modelers too. I mean, most people at Athearn that are working at Athearn, whether you talk to them on the phone or an email or at a train show, we're modelers too. So when you give us suggestions, you can sometimes see the wheels turning when I'm looking at these comments, because man, there's some great suggestions out here. We got time for a couple of more. I know we went a little bit long today, but there were some great questions coming through, and I know some of you guys run our show while you're in the workshop. So we'll do a few more questions, and then we're going to call it a night. We're going to pull the pin on this, as we say. Let's see. Yeah, we're getting a lot of love tonight for the southern roads, Seaboard Coastline, Atlantic Coastline, Southern. Terry Poole says Southern Caboose. Yeah. We're working on some stuff I think you'll be happy with. Let's see. Here's an interesting one. Tony, you'll know a little bit about this. HO scale GP8 for the Delaware Lackawanna.
A GP8.
Yeah.
Delaware Lackawanna. Are we talking the original Delaware Lackawanna and Western?
I was thinking the current.
Modern? Yeah. If it's an 8, that sounds like kind of like a Paducah rebuild.
Right. Yeah. That's what it's kind of. Yeah. And then Brad's coming at me with his weekly request for CN and CP chop nose GP9s. Yeah, I hear you, Brad. Excellent suggestion. let's see what happens. But yeah, that would be kind of cool. It would probably take a fair amount of research because, when you start getting that deep into the ownership of locomotives, as you know, things change. They may have originally been, and I'm just throwing this out there, it may have originally been a Santa Fe, and then it became a short line, another short line, another short line. It's kind of like, when you buy your car and you're the third owner, you may elect to take the fuzzy dice off the rear view mirror.
You guys do that a lot, though. With
Neil.
Look at the Topeka cab Jeeps. There's a late era Jeep that you did all the bells, whistles, and road accurate detail on those. So again, when people ask for some of these things like these late chop nose rebuilds, it's not far fetched. I mean, you
No, it's not.
And what was that? Didn't you just do a Bangor and a Rootstock chop nose that had like?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did the GP7s. In fact, I think the Bangor and Aroostook versions are still. There's a limited amount of them, and then we did the Morrison and man, I can't. The M&E. Help me out here, Tony. You probably know the road.
Oh,
maybe my fans can help me out because I just blanked out. I've been doing too many shows lately.
Is it Morrison and Erie? I'm forgetting which.
Yeah, that sounds right. Morrison and Erie.
But
surely somebody out there will let me know.
I thought
we did those.
The Bangor and a Rootstock, I thought was real striking. It's in that red, gray, and black, isn't it? That's
yeah. No, that was cool. We did a Prime for Grime version in the M&E. Yeah, there we go. I'm gonna put him up there since he corrected me. And nope, not Terry. Sorry, where'd he go?
Yeah.
Wow, they are moving fast tonight, folks. There we go. Thank you. Yes, Morristown and Erie. I kept saying something else. And it was totally wrong. But it's been a long week for a lot of us. You and me both, Tony, with all the shows that we've been doing lately.
Yeah.
All right, I've got time for one more question, and I'm going to let Tony and Aaron go. Aaron, thanks again for coming on board with us and showing us your pictures. Great pictures, and giving me some great insight on the Tacoma Rail, stuff that I never knew about that railroad. So thanks again for coming on board.
Yeah, absolutely, Jim. Thanks for having me on. I just definitely want to thank Nick again for letting us use a couple of his photos there too. I'm really excited to see the production SD70s when they're out. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, they're going to be great. I'm just looking through because there's some guys asking some questions or requests. West Coast Rails. I think I missed you last time, so I'm gonna do you a favor and bring you up there. He's like, "Hey James, your favorite pain in the butt." You're not a pain in the butt. You have no idea. If Athearn did an AC 4400 Genesis 2.0 with see-through grills, you guys would hit a home run. Well, you know what? First of all, you're not a pain in the butt. Second of all, have you used the email that I've talked about? Because that's your first best thing to do. Because believe it or not, there comes a time where myself and you remember Janik and a lot of other guys, we talk about what are we going to do? What should we do for our next locomotive? What should we do for our next freight car, passenger car, what have you? And it's not just sitting down and thinking, well, I really like this railroad because of this color. No, we actually do based on what you guys input, but we don't know unless you actually tell us. So this is a great way to tell us, but the best way to tell product suggestion email and letting us know, because time's going to come. And if we get enough requests for that, we're going to hit that one out of the park for you, and we're going to be happy and you're going to be happy. So great question. Thanks for asking that. And as I'm saying that, look what's coming in. Got some new traffic coming in.
Can't tell for sure, but it does look like a couple of SD70 ACs right there too.
Yeah.
Yeah, my screen is so small. I'm gonna say that you guys can probably tell better than I can, because man, it's kind of small from where I'm sitting. All right. Well, Tony, thanks for coming on board once again. We will see you next week. And remember, all you SP fans out there, come back here next week, 3:30, Train Tuesday. That's 3:30 Central Time. We're going to be talking some SP. We're going to be talking some ready to run. We're not all about just Genesis. We do ready to run as well. So stay tuned for that. Tony, you're going to join me for that. So I know you've got some great pictures of that stuff.
Oh yeah, it'll be the tunnel motor edition of Train Tuesday. So yeah, we'll be back next Tuesday with SP Rio Grande, and there's some wheeling in Lake Erie and other stuff. We got all sorts of tunnel motor stuff to talk about. So thanks for having us on today, and we certainly appreciate it. And we'll post stuff up on Tacoma Rail on modelrailroadnews.com. Watch, I'll put a page up with some of Aaron's pictures because he's the guy that's going to be doing the review of the model.
Excellent. Looking forward to it as always, Tony. Thanks for your help. Aaron, once again, thanks for coming on board. Before we leave tonight, any last words, guys, that you'd like to say to our audience?
High greens, everybody. Good being with you.
There you go. All right. Everybody out there in the modeling world, stay safe, stay happy. Get some modeling done this weekend and be kind to everybody. And until we meet again, I want to say high greens, everybody. Take care.